first conceived in the GBM as I'm the head of a political cluster in GBM. And why we need to have this Manifesto Rakyat? I think that is the presentation they want to brief you tonight. How can we use this Manifesto Rakyat to advance your cause? For tonight, we're talking about saving the environment. So, a lot of time, politicians ask, apa lagi rakyat mahu? It can be like Chinese, it can be Melayu, it can be Indian. But, you know, sometimes the politicians and the people in the government, they just lose touch with the people's issues. Of course, they can read all the news carried by media outlets, online, social media, but there's a lot of issues on the ground. For example, for the past 2 years, we have undergone pandemic, we have undergone the emergency period, and there's like a twin major challenge that time. One is about the livelihood, one is about life, how to actually get through the pandemic is actually it's a serious challenge at time. But what we saw in the past 2 years or more is that politicians, they are in their own world, they're in their back room playing their own political games. They come out with Sheraton move, and then for after that, there's a lot of political tussle between the Muhyiddin camp and then the UMNO, and a lot of the issues people actually want, they don't talk about it that much. So now, this year, people talking about election year, they start talking about people's issues. But have we heard about any ideas coming from them, any proposals to solve major problems? Perhaps they should listen to what the people actually want. So in terms of the environment, there are a lot of issues also for the past years. Just end of last year, I think this is a worldwide news. Malaysia has a serious flood, especially in the Klang Valley area. You can see the photos at the top left corner and the bottom left corner. It's terrible. And then also there are landslides. On the bottom right, just not too long ago, a few months ago in Ampang, you see landslide, and then that caused a lot of damage to the properties and lives. And on the left side, as you see some, there's also a landslide in Penang because of a construction of a highway that caused 9 lives being lost. They are construction workers. And why? One thing is that we understand that there's a lot to do with the change of the environment. If you look at the top right corner, a lot of deforestation happening in this country. Mind you, there are people living in the forest near the communities. They are forced to change their lifestyle as well. And that actually brings a lot of problems to the people, especially when you have a well-functioning forest like the North Kuala Langat Forest Reserve. Government wants to desert it for development. Yeah. So then they come back to ask what people want. There's a lot of consequences of all this action. So why we have this Manifesto Rakyat? Is we want to collect the voices from the people. And all these people actually have names, have faces. They really have their voices. That's why this is called Manifesto Rakyat. It's a way that we go to the ground, listen to people, collect their voices, and come back with something useful. We want people's solution. Because people experience all these issues, they actually have the on-the-ground observation and insights, how they go about it. Something probably the politician don't know yet, or the policymaker don't know yet. So that's why we want to have this serve as a microsome of diverse voices from people. What we want is we aspire for a harmonious, equitable, progressive nation. It's a cooperative project between the Gabungan Bertindak Malaysia, which consists of 28 members, and CSO Platform for Reform, consists of 102 members currently. The 3 objectives is to build broad and inclusive social coalition. We want to identify whoever comes together, work on the similar areas. This Manifesto Rakyat also emphasized on the idea of ownership and empowerment, because if you look at our Manifesto Rakyat, you will see a lot of people actually bring up their ideas. They give proposal, give solution to the various problems. You can see actually who said it, who proposed it. So this is something that is different to all other manifestos that we've seen by the political parties. And hence, because of all this idea ownership, this actually empower the activists and the organization to advance their cause, because they can find their friends, their allies to together build on the similar cause, a similar belief and values. And then lastly, I think this is why tonight this webinar served as a very good platform and event to persuade you, to actively engage with you, talking to you about the Manifesto Rakyat. So these are the political manifesto that you have seen in the past, especially for the general election, the 14th general election. I want to show you the glimpse of some of the things that they propose for the environment for tonight. Then you see how different they structure and why we are different. For example, just to give you the concept difference, what we think about the political party manifesto is usually a very top-down and elitist way of drafting. Usually they don't do much of a consultation, and their main goal is to woo voters. They want your votes. So it has certain vested interests in that. So actually they don't actually represent all Rakyats. They probably have some targeted groups they want to woo. And usually they lack real faces and voices, because we don't know who are the responsible. How can we hold them responsible if we don't know who actually wrote it? They won't hold any responsibility. And a lot of times it's on paper. After the general election, even if they want the power, they want you to forget. They will say it's just a guideline. It's nothing really legal binding for them to really fulfill them. Yeah. So their manifestos usually focus on the next general election, but ours will take different approach. It's a bottom-up and grassroots approach. We ask for people's submission, proposals, and we also had a policy town hall for discussion. And we want to gather as diverse, as many voices as possible, so that we form some common interests among the people. And we can identify actually this idea coming from whom, and who are the writers for this Manifesto Rakyat. It's all in the document. And we want to make sure that this is interactive. Like now I'm talking to you, and later Jashani will talk about the ideas contained in the environment chapter. So this kind of active engagement is needed, because we are not actually we don't want your vote, we don't need your votes. We want to tell you that these are the people voices and want you to join together to bring our voices even stronger. So Manifesto Rakyat, of course, we also want to talk about the next general election, but we have a lifespan beyond general election. So we treat this as a living document. We can make a second version and we can improve it. We can adapt to the new changes. So this project is for the long haul. Just to show you the Buku Harapan, what they talk about the environment protection, they criticize UMNO, for being dictated by large corporations. If you look at the blue highlighted line, and they are crony capitalists. They say that people's welfare, environment, sustainability are not their main concern. Yeah, and then they promise if they are in the government, then they will base on principles of sustainability and sustainable development. In short, they claim that it will be an environment-friendly government. You have seen 22 months how they govern. Of course, if you look at the chapter, many keywords are very positive. Yeah, they have selective goals. For example, they talk about logging quota. They talk about protect marine life, wildlife, and nature. They also talk about carbon emission, renewable energy. They want to stop pollution. They also talk about challenges of climate change. And one keyword they use is the protection of biodiversity. Very nice. Actually, for BN, they also talk about the environment protection. They also talk about the biodiversity, enhancing flora, fauna preservation, forest protection, forest management. All these are keywords, not much of details, yeah? Keywords, yeah? But yeah, if you look at the BN manifesto, interestingly, they cite this law, the access of biological resources and benefit sharing. This is something new. And they also talk about reduction of carbon emission without any details. And they talk about solid waste. This is something different. And they work a very nice graphic talking about building more pocket parks. And this is very different to the others. This is the BN manifesto. Yeah. For past the manifesto, Sejahtera, Malaysia Sejahtera, only have 5 points. Now they are government. They're in charge of the environment and natural resources. Yeah? 5 points only. They talk about the sustainability. They talk about SDG. They say they want to clean the 10 most polluted rivers. And they want to have some kind of a monitoring system for the environment. Now they are in government. They should at least honor the manifesto because they are in the governing position right now. Do they still remember their manifesto? Maybe you should ask. And for manifesto, for the 99%, this is the NGOs and the Party Socialist Malaysia's manifesto. Yeah, so there are some positive things. They talk about gazettement of all permanent forests. They talk about EIA. This is something that others never mentioned. They talk about the rights of the farmers and fisher folk, and talk about renewable energy, green public transport, and sustainable farming. So they have different take on different issues. And I want to also highlight to you the Selangor state government, the Selangor Pakatan Rakyat 2013 manifesto. Probably they want you to forget because they talked about the environment protection, especially at the arrow there. It says that to strengthen efforts to rehabilitate and conserve state forests as major site for water catchments and green lungs. Very nice. So right now it's still the same ruling parties in charge, and they have attempts to degazette some forests, like I mentioned before. So we should not forget what they have said. So come back to this. Apa lagi rakyat mahu? What people want? Actually, there's a lot. Like later, Shani will talk about what contents in the environmental chapters to tell you actually what the people actually aspire want for the environment. And for that, actually, GBN and CSO spent 3 months of campaign asking for proposals. It's not in any random proposal. There's a structure that we want. We want the person to tell us about the problem statement and then tell us about what they believe are the values handling this problem. And then very crucially, it's about the solution. We don't want people just complain, ranting about problems, but think about the solution. So we also gather many good solutions. For example, this one is about apply a climate lens in the environment management from JEDI, from Evelyn Te in Penang. So it gives you some kind of structure. It's a good proposal. So we spent 3 months asking for proposals, and then we had this policy town hall meeting for deliberate all these proposals. Then we come together and finalize the document. Just end of the last month, we launched it for the first time, the Manifesto Rakyat document and the website. So just quickly to tell you what is contained in this Manifesto Rakyat. It actually has 27 policy areas under 3 pillars. The first pillar is on the Bangsa Malaysia, the identity part, the unity in diversity. It talks about the culture, identity, and religious tolerance and harmony. It's very important because it's about the nation building. It's who we are. This is the smallest pillar. The second pillar is about to promote, to improve and defend civil rights and liberties. We all need to talk about the freedom of expression and human rights because this is all the previous government do not have a very good record in these two, and it needs a serious improvement. And this pillar focusing mainly on the demographic groups such as women, child, the youth, persons with disabilities, migrant workers, and so on. And we also have regional chapters on Sabah and Sarawak because they have very different issues to us, those in the West Malaysia and Peninsula. So we have this focus on those regional issues to give voices to the people on the other side. And third pillar is about towards equitable and democratic society. So these are all the major policy areas such as economic justice, education, health, environment. They are all in this pillar 3, very important. And of course, a lot of issues such as corruption issues, they're all linking. You know, policy don't live in silo, because when you talk about the environment, you need to talk about the education, how people can raise awareness about environment protection. You also don't want to have corruption to trade the forests for economic gains, for example. So all these are linking in a way, yeah. And actually, we received about 300 public submissions for this Manifesto Rakyat. On environment itself, we received 12 very good ones. And last year, October, we spent 2 days going through more than 200 proposals on the 27 policy areas, literally 2 whole days, yeah? Running on 2 channels, 1 channel on GBM and another on CSO. We focus a lot of this engagement and discussion because we want to refine the ideas. We want to see it's not just anyone give their own opinions, but also has to stand the test of getting the recognition and acceptance. So it's a good practice to really test out the ideas and deliberate about it. So this element of forming the manifesto, you don't find it in other manifesto. So this snapshot were the events for the 2 days in last October. And coming to the document itself, now you can actually download it. It's the English Manifesto Rakyat is already uploaded and is already launched. The BM one is still under the final stage of review. The Manifesto Rakyat contains about 223 pages, about 24,000 words, just in terms of the content itself. And if you go to our website, you can also see the manifesto highlight poster. So just in this poster, you will understand what the whole Manifesto Rakyat is about. I know it's quite a thick document, but all the ideas, highlights are in this poster or if you just go like and follow our Facebook, every day we show the poster of the highlights of each policy area. It is available in English and BM. So how is it structured? Later, Shani will talk to you about the content, but this is how it is different to others. You see that, for example, the environment chapter, under the third section, you can see that the manifesto action, we have proposal talking about certain things. For example, I actually talk about to incorporate the green budgeting and planning in the natural resources. And then you see Rexy and Dr. Kam from Penang Hills Watch talk about protect the water catchments. So what are the ideas is listed there. Then you know what ideas they contributed to this chapter. It's all transparent. And yeah, so this is the website, Manifesto Rakyat 2021.org. You can download all the documents. You can also go read individual chapters. You can download the poster as well. What is special about this website is that you can do the endorsement, live endorsement, either by individual or organization. Is possible for the Manifesto Rakyat document and individual chapters. If you feel more about environment chapters, you just want to endorse the environment chapter, it's fine, it's good. and you are welcome to endorse other chapters. Yeah. So what makes this tick also is we also have another project in GBM to do the MP and adun profiling website. So we also bring the same set of questions. We ask the MPs and the state assembly persons whether they agree on all these stance, for example, about the environment manifesto actions. So voters can judge whether this representative share your values, you can trust them or not. Actually, you can also ask them whether they agree with certain manifesto actions in this document. Now it's actually voters ketuanan pengundi. We go ask whether they are with us or not, because these are people's voices. So how to endorse is very easy. If you go to the website, on the front page itself, you can go download the poster and the document. But at the bottom of the page, you will see a section to endorse the Manifesto Rakyat. You just need to key in your name, your organization, and email. And then after you submit, tada, you can already see your name appear in the list. Yeah. And if you want to do, for example, the environment chapter, you can also do the same thing. You just go to the all policy areas at the top tab, and you go search for the environment chapter. At the bottom of the chapter, you can either add a comment. Probably you want to say that you have other proposal, you have other ideas. You are welcome to leave your comment. Or another button is for you to endorse the policy. So the same thing, you can put in your name, your organization, and email. Then you submit, and this is the way to endorse. So what Rakyat can do with the Manifesto Rakyat? I think I encourage you to read up, to decide for yourself whether good enough or not for you to endorse. If you think it's really something that you appreciate, that you share the values, you should also endorse and share. Tell your people, your friends, your relatives, and people that these are good ideas, and probably the political parties and other organizations should also endorse. We want to grow the list of endorsement to make this a movement. Secondly, yes, please speak to your MP and aduns and other election candidates when the election comes, whether on education issues, on environmental issues, they share their beliefs or values with all this written in the chapter or not. Ask them to declare their stance. We will do that through the MP profiling website, but now we can ask them whether they want to endorse or not. You can talk to them. Yeah. Third, I think you can also speak up. You must have your own ideas also. So you can write your posts, you can even make your own videos and speak out in public about what is your aspiration, what is your voice. Actually, we welcome your voice. We welcome any criticism and feedback. Perhaps we can incorporate your ideas in the next round. So no more discussion. Apa lagi rakyat mahu? Please find it in the Manifesto Rakyat. These are all people's voices. So lastly, I want to give an acknowledgement to the team. It's a team effort. As you can see, there's so many contributors. Many people are working really hard. And I also want to thank not just the working group, I also want to thank the social media team for disseminate information and setting up the website and things like that. Thank you very much. And I thank you for your attention, and I welcome your question. And I hope I can answer your question. Thanks.
Thank you, Jihan. So we now open the session to questions from everyone. There are a few questions that I had received, but so maybe what I'll do is I'll just start with one question that I received. Jihan, is that okay?
Okay, sure.
All right. It's just to, all right. Can the person asked whether they could ask their resident association, the GMB, university, social or sports club to endorse the Manifesto Rakyat or the environment chapter? Can they ask?
Sure. Are they rakyat? I think they are, right? I think any rakyat are welcome to endorse. Even I think the MPs are doing, they feel themselves also a rakyat because probably they also pay tax. So yeah, anyone is welcome. If they agree with the content, why not? We welcome as many as possible. Tell your friends, tell your RA, tell your community groups. If they think that they can agree with what is proposed in the chapter, yes, by all means, please endorse, please endorse. You're welcome.
Right. Does anyone in the audience have a question? You can raise your hand or you can type it in chat. I think one very important thing that we have when you talk about the Manifesto Rakyat, and I think Audrey just also mentioned that she hasn't heard about it before. How can we spread the word? Because it's such a good document. There was so much work that went in to get it produced, and I still remember how hard all of us had to work to get it done. And also, the writers, the contributions, the flow of ideas. I mean, these are really good ideas, and it's like what you said. Apalagi rakyat mau. What does the rakyat want? I think this really this really illustrates and spells it out. But how do we reach out to them? I mean, how do we reach out to the public? How do we reach out to the aduns and all that, so that more people are aware of this document? Because you've now got this really good document, but now how do we reach out?
Thanks, Villa. It's a very good question. This is a people's initiative as well. We want to promote and bring this out to as many, to do the outreach to as many people as possible. Not only in Klang Valley, also in the northern part, southern part of Peninsula, and even East Malaysia. So a lot of people have not heard of it because I think just end of last month, we just launched it. We plan to have a roadshow and have a campaign on the ground at different communities and different areas in Malaysia. And I think a lot of places also social media well connected. So of course, we also can do the social media campaign, but I really want to invite you to help spread the words, because it won't be successful if you are not convinced and you don't think it's worth sharing. I think if this can be spread by words of mouth, hands, and to as many social media outreach as possible, then I think this can make it happen. We try our best as an organizer to meet with for example, the political parties before the general election. This is in the GBF and CSO plan. We meet with high level, party leadership, all this, to talk about the manifesto. We actually welcome them to copy people's ideas. We'll tell them that this is what people want. If you just copy, it's perfectly fine because this is what people want. Yeah. So we actually welcome them to use our idea. And actually it's a good thing, because if they adopt part of our ideas, that means for future, the civil society or the communities have a bridge to talk to whichever party wins in the end. So I think this would build the foundation, the platform for the future engagement. So this is what we imagine in that stage to be. So all the cluster in the CSO platform and GBM, the member organizations, are already told to talk to their own members and organize the meetings to talk to the people on the ground. So right now we're also waiting for the Malay version to be finalized. I think once we have this both language, we can go even further. So I don't think that we can just rely on the membership, the member strength. Yeah, we also want general public to if you have heard about it tonight, and you read up, and if you really agree and think this is a really good idea, tell your friends, tell whoever you know, at least for the general election, if you know about this manifesto, you go check out for other political parties, whether they have election manifesto or not, and compare theirs to ours, to the People's Manifesto.
Right. We have two questions, Jihan, and then we will then pass it over to Shani. Audrey followed up with, what would be the next step? You have actually replied, but I think maybe elaborate a little bit more. What will be the next step, especially in relation to the chapter on the environment? So what's the next step for the environment chapter?
Yeah, of course, I think the environment cluster will have our own strategy to lobby certain parties and talk to certain people. But I think those proposals are very good in their own merits. If you listen to Encik Shani's presentation later, I think these are very useful to stop certain kind of problems. For example, the deforestation. We know that the state governments, especially the Chief Minister or Menteri Besar, they have their own power to do so at their whims. Actually, this is their power, but we actually have something in our proposal to actually make it more democratic, to go through more check and balance, so that if they say they want to balance the economic growth and the environment protection, they really should do so for the environment protection. Yeah, so right now, seems like they want to have their own economic development and have little thought about the environment impact. So we want to do this, the real balance, through the check and balance measures that we propose in the Manifesto Rakyat environment chapters. So Go Really Love, I think those are good ideas that we can push as a whole, yeah?
There are two very good questions, but I think we'll hold on, Jihan, and we'll try and get both you and Encik Shani to answer them in the general questions Q&A session later. I think it'll be a very good discussion based on those two questions. Thank you so much, Jihan, and thank you everyone for your questions. Before I call on Encik Shani, we would like to ask everyone to turn on their cameras so that we can take a photo. I hope you don't mind. We just want to keep a record of those who came. Siti will take the photo.
Everybody's turn on. 1, 2. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Siti. All right. Thank you, Jihan. I think we've learned a lot today about the manifesto, how it came about, and what is the aim of the manifesto. And you know, all of us who have been involved in it, we are very excited about it. And now, like we mentioned, a very important thing is, how do we reach out to the Rakyat? How do we reach out to the adults? And I think that can come in the next Q&A session. Now, I would like to introduce our second speaker, Encik Muhammad Shani bin Abdullah, who is the chairman of Sustain Malaysia. Encik Shani has a Bachelor of Agriculture Science from University Pertanian Malaysia and served 23 years with the Felder Group of companies, starting as a plant protection research officer, farm management, and resort management marketing. He has served one term with the Malaysian Human Rights Commission, Suhakam. He's also engaged in CSO activities with the Pahang Consumer Association, FOMCA, and Sustain Malaysia. His presentation is titled, As Stewards of Environment. I'll now like to hand over the session to Encik Shani.
Thank you, Ms. Leela, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of the environment chapter of the Manifesto Rakyat. And I would like to thank all those actually attending this presentation. I titled this presentation as stewards of environment. No? So it's actually everyone's responsibility. And it shouldn't be we everyone expecting someone else to do about anything, public service. The preamble states that it's the environment chapter is an overarching framework on climate change. It's needed to meaningfully address cross-cutting environmental issues, which are interdisciplinary and wide-ranging, such as transparency, environmental and human rights impact assessments, sustainable development, and natural resources. So often, government processes are in silos. So, the management of public policy is in silos. So, when there is actually environment damage occurs, it affects everyone. So actually, it should be cross-cutting, multidisciplinary, and interagency responsibility. So we need to understand the interdependence of all sectors, so that what's happening is understood by everyone, especially the Rakyat. Rakyat should understand. Only then the policymakers will take the effort to make the changes. Okay, so we go to the first, under the environment chapter, the first proposal is climate change action. So climate change is actually a top priority issue in view of the impact on economy, meaning livelihood, and also food security, lives. So public awareness must be raised on how climate change affect different stakeholders, especially the marginalized groups, and the urgency to prepare and deal with these impacts. So public awareness is actually very important. No, otherwise the politicians are not going to listen or adopt changes, because if the public is unaware of the interrelations, the environment and the impact to the ordinary people, politician is not going to say simply bother. So it is important for us to educate the ordinary people, so that and the policymakers take interest in climate change. We are witnessing the consequences of extreme weather pattern, heavy rainfall, and unprecedented flooding. And it's happening like almost weekly basis. Even I've not come across rain in June, July. No, now it's like daily raining in my place actually. Okay, so the first manifesto under the environment chapter is to declare a national climate emergency and mainstream climate change in national development planning. So we need to declare an emergency. We only knew about the emergency declaration during the COVID. So when the emergency declared, a lot of things are done without going through certain processes, because it's the emergency, and a lot of things can be actually put aside. Even parliament sessions were put aside because of the emergency. But we shouldn't be actually doing that. But this is a climate emergency, meaning it is the top priority, and the budget should be allocated for tackling climate emergency. So, so that is actually the first proposal, manifesto. And second is involve public as decision makers. So currently, a lot of decisions, even we hear, like even yesterday, there was actually a protest in Chandabai regarding land being proposed to be taken for widening of roads, widening of rivers without proper consultation. But where environment is involved, there need to be more wider inclusion of public in the decision-making process, so that this process itself also becomes a educational process. And number three will be to institutionalize the public involvement process and require state assembly approval for degazetting forest reserves. So currently, it's only the chief minister is a one person kind of a prerogative to approve degazetting of forest reserves. So this should be this process should be democratized by at least to the state legislative assembly for approval. So that means there is actually a better check and balance mechanism where we can lobby the many state assemblymen to question and demand transparency in the process. And again, these proposals to degazette shouldn't be of automatic, It should be, at this juncture, any forest reserve should only be degazetted for public amenities, very essential public amenities. It shouldn't at all be degazetted for any commercial purposes, commercial development, because the forest is already limited, Even in Selangor, it is less than 30% area is forested. But the national commitment is to ensure 50% of the land area is covered by forest. So meaning, so that issue also should be, highlighted, that any forest reserve for regazettement only for essential need for public, not for commercial purposes. And number 4 is incorporate green budgeting and green planning. Often we hear low carbon in the budget, green technology, but it's only a narrative or a phrase in a textbook. But if we incorporate green budgeting, means all aspects of government decisions and development should fulfill the green budgeting, meaning there shouldn't be overdevelopment, there shouldn't be over disposal, garbage disposal. It should be a sustainable development. So number 5 is actually to protect catchment areas. Under the Forestry Act, it requires the forests to be categorized according to function. But however, it's only categorized, but the category is not given due value, such as the catchment forest. Water catchment forest. That, as I mentioned earlier, as a water catchment forest, it shouldn't be disturbed. So it should be, there should be laws and policies to prevent any kind of encroachment or development into water catchment forests. I mean, we are already expecting, shortage of water, throughout the world. So without protecting the water catchment areas, we are inviting, we are hastening the water shortage. Number 6 is increase forest connectivity in fragmented landscapes, meaning it has to be in a overall concept, meaning if there are plantations going through replanting, they should incorporate plans to allow avenues of the plantation to connect adjacent forests which are actually separated or isolated. So this thing should be incorporated as a policy. It cannot be led to the plantation owners to implement, but there should be policies, even into the scale of these things are incorporated into like mandatory certifications like MSPO, so that the plantation owners implement these policies. Number 7, redefine forest protection. Again, today we hear Menteri Besar or Timbalan Menteri Besar, pronouncing, forests or timber is their revenue source, but they have not solved their water problem, shortage of water, clean water, which actually is part of the deforestation. So we need to redefine even forests. I mean, if you refer to some definitions, forests can be just one single tree as a forest. So we need to redefine forest protection, and this should be adopted by all levels of the government. Number 8, establish sustainable forest conservation. Again, we hear sustainable forest management, but our rivers are continue to pollute, and the situation is not improving. So meaning whatever we hear is not actually being implemented at the forest management level. So we need to enable sustainable forest conservation. So the next one is actually environmental impact assessment. This is another controversial or very sensitive process. So EIA is actually introduced to ensure any development is takes care of mitigation, or if the EIA finds the damage is too much, so the assessment will allow the approving authority not to approve the proposal. But our practice is sort of understood whenever there is a EIA, is that it's understood to be will be approved by some way or other. So under the EIA, we propose that review the approval and evaluation process for EIA. So these points are actually elaborated in the manifesto. So the review of the approval and the evaluation process for EIA, currently the practice is that when the Department of Environment announces the EIA report being displayed for public consultation, it is there, but it is not being promoted aggressively in order for the stakeholders to they know about the consultation, and also to access and review these studies and provide feedback. So there should be better mechanism to promote, and also this report should be in various languages. It cannot be in scientific English language, which is actually defeats the purpose of the public consultation. And number 10 is to revise Sarawak's EIA logging standard. If anyone is new to this, Sarawak, if there is actually logging concession is awarded in a virgin jungle in Sarawak, it is not by law not required to have a EIA. So this has to be reviewed, and so this Sarawak EIA logging standard has to be revised. So number 11 is to replace EIA with a environment and human rights impact assessment. Even though currently it's EIA, but in certain areas where involving local communities, so the department requires the project proponent to do social impact assessment. But under the manifesto, it's proposed that the EIA is actually replaced with environment and human rights impact assessment. So in order to ensure the impact of the project to the community and also other stakeholders within the proposed project site. So what is EIA? If those actually are new to EIA, it's actually a legal procedure in which a project developer is required to provide environmental information to a consenting body so that this information can be used for better informed decision making. So, and usually it also involves publication and public comment disclosure. This information is usually provided in the EIA report, also called EIA impact, environmental impact assessment, environmental social impact assessment. EIA procedures vary widely from one jurisdiction to another. Okay, so it's a, such as a diagrammatical form. So the impact of the project upon the surrounding, so it affects environment, even terrestrial, aquatic, the landscape, erosion, landslide, humans, cultural, maybe there are burial grounds, geology, soil, water, air, and also climate. So next is on sustainable development. So there should be improved solid waste management. Currently, still we see stinging. Waste in front of houses, so that it should be improved. Meaning, 3R and all that is just a slogan. People has not adopted any changes to solid waste management. We cannot leave this solid waste management to a company, but it should involve whole of a government, whole of a society. So it should we should improve the solid waste management, and also it cannot be a landfill. So it should involve recycling and even making use of the biodegradable material as fertilizers, manures, and all, so on. Number 13 is inhibit urban sprawl to protect forests. Maybe many, to many, this is a very new concept, urban sprawl. Urban sprawl creates distance between working place and the residents. So it creates the traffic and again, traffic jams, highways and so on. So by creating living spaces within commercial areas, within urban areas, we reduce the urban sprawl. So we should looking into more of mixed development, incorporating residents within commercial areas. So again, this will reduce the need for opening forests for residents and also commercial development. Number 14 is to increase infrastructure for pedestrian walkways, efforts to conserve public green areas. So again, so if I share this, I mean, many will think, no, we go electric, we can reduce the carbon footprint, but even electric cars are not low in carbon. So if we understand this picture, so I mean, more will take efforts to reduce emission, carbon emission. So we need to change our lifestyle. Okay, so again, I would like to share this. If we do as we are doing, so it is the bottom, and that it is actually is proven. So we need to make changes to improve our lives, and also to ensure our next generation and the coming generations have a planet, a healthy planet to live. Okay, so that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I can elaborate on their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Encik Shani. Very insightful as ever. And I think many questions. I'm sure the audience has many questions. Does anyone have a question at the moment? Or should I start with one? You know, we talk a lot about the environmental disasters or degradation. So how can the proposals in the environment chapter help reduce these disasters or degradation? For example, the floods, the landslides, how do they help reduce it?